Amanda Mercer could control a boardroom with one look. What she couldn't control was the woman who caught her bleeding, took her wrist, and told her exactly what to do. This is an original 5-episode story. Any resemblance to real people, places, or events is purely coincidental. Sophia Bennett had been in the building exactly 3 days and already hated the lobby. Not because it was ugly. It was stunning, in the cold, deliberate way wealth often was when it wanted to be taken seriously. 30 feet of glass. Pale stone polished until the floor reflected shoes, light, and status with equal honesty. Black steel. Soft gold accents. Quiet, so expensive it felt curated. No, Sophia hated the lobby because it made everyone move like they were being watched. Maybe they were. She crossed it at 7:24 with a visitor badge clipped neatly at her waist, a slim leather portfolio under one arm, and coffee that was already disappointing in one hand. A man in a navy suit cut in front of a receptionist without apologizing. Someone else nearly dropped a folder, trying to get to the private elevators before they opened. 2 assistants stood by a marble column speaking in low voices that stopped the second someone important passed. Corporate gravity, Sophia thought. Not unusual. Just irritating. She had worked in enough high-pressure environments to recognize the signs quickly. People over-explaining, undersleeping, overdressing, and treating ordinary logistics like military response. Buildings like this always ran on the same fuel: money, urgency, and fear dressed as professionalism. Still deciding if we're worth the trouble? Sophia glanced over. The receptionist from the first day, Mara, quick smile, smart eyes, was watching her from behind the desk. Sophia lifted her coffee. Still deciding if this is legally coffee. Mara laughed under her breath. Bold thing to say in this lobby before 8. I'm new, Sophia said. I can still make mistakes. Mara leaned in slightly. You'll fit in faster if you pretend everything here is excellent. Sophia looked around once at the stone, the light, the tension, the 2 careful movements of people crossing the lobby. I don't think pretending is the skill set they brought me in for. That got a second, fuller laugh out of Mara. Sophia liked her immediately. She was about to head toward the elevators when the atmosphere in the room changed. Not dramatically, just enough for someone observant to feel the shift. A conversation near the far wall cut off. A man in legal straightened. One of the assistants stepped back without seeming to realize she had done it. Mara's eyes flicked toward the front doors. Speak of the devil. Sophia turned. Amanda Mercer came through the glass doors in a charcoal coat over cream silk and moved through the lobby like the building had been designed around the exact angle of her walk. She was not loud. She didn't need to be. Everything about her was controlled down to the millimeter. Golden blonde hair in a polished sweep at her jaw, posture perfect without looking rehearsed, phone in one hand, attention already 6 moves ahead of the room she was physically in. People did not stare at her. They adjusted to her. That was more interesting. Sophia watched Amanda pause, only once to say something to a man from finance. Not much. Just one sentence, low and precise. Whatever it was, it made him go pale in a way that suggested he'd just been reminded of both his job title and his mortality. Amanda kept moving. She never looked toward reception. Never looked toward Sophia. And yet the entire lobby still seemed to bend around her until the private elevator doors closed and took her upstairs. Sophia was aware, a second too late, that Mara was watching her watch Amanda. So, Mara said, careful and casual in the way people get when they already know more than they should. That's Amanda. Sophia looked back at her. I figured. Mara's mouth curved. Everybody does. Sophia glanced once more at the now closed elevator doors, then down at the coffee in her hand. That seems exhausting, she said. Mara smiled. For everyone involved. Sophia did not answer that. She only shifted her portfolio under her arm, turned toward the staff elevators, and told herself she was not interested in powerful women with impossible faces and entire corporations hiding in the line of their shoulders. The lie barely lasted until noon. Amanda Mercer liked quiet in the mornings. Not silence. Silence was empty, and she had never trusted empty things. But quiet, controlled quiet, curated quiet, the kind that came with floor-to-ceiling windows, brushed steel, expensive stone, and a coffee machine that never sputtered. Quiet, she trusted. At 7:30, The executive kitchen on the 32nd floor belonged to her. It was one of the few places in the building where nobody interrupted her unless they absolutely had to. No assistants with folders pressed to their chests. No board members pretending not to angle for her approval. No department heads arriving with careful smiles and hidden panic. Just glass, marble, and the low electric hum of a city waking up below her. Amanda stood at the wide marble counter, sleeves buttoned neatly at her wrists, a cream silk blouse disappearing into the precise line of a dark charcoal skirt. Her blazer hung over the back of a chair nearby. Her golden blonde hair fell in its usual polished sweep just above her shoulders, not a strand out of place. A lemon sat on the cutting board in front of her. She had a breakfast meeting in 20 minutes, a legal review at 9, and a call with New York that would inevitably run long. She was already mentally 3 rooms ahead. The knife in her hand moved with the easy precision of someone who had no patience for clumsy things. Her phone vibrated against the counter. Amanda glanced down. Unknown number. She ignored it. It stopped, then started again. She exhaled once through her nose, sharp and irritated, and looked down a second time. The knife slipped. Pain flashed bright and immediate across her palm. Amanda hissed and dropped the knife onto the cutting board with a hard clatter. Damn it. Across the room, someone set down a coffee cup. Amanda had been vaguely aware of another person in the kitchen. Dark hair, quiet presence. One of the newer faces she hadn't yet assigned a name to. But before she could turn fully, the woman was already moving. No wide-eyed panic. No useless questions. No fuss. Paper towels appeared in one hand. The woman reached Amanda in 3 quick steps, caught her wrist, and turned her injured hand upward with calm, practiced efficiency. The contact hit Amanda a half-second before the pain did. Cool fingers. Steady grip. No hesitation. The woman tugged the sleeve of Amanda's blouse back just enough to keep the cuff clear, then grabbed a stack of paper towels and pressed them firmly against the cut. Hold this. Low voice. Even. Not loud. Not soft. Amanda looked up, startled, not by the instruction, but by the fact that her body obeyed it before her pride could object. The woman's dark hair was pulled back cleanly, no loose strands falling into her face. Her features were composed, intelligent, annoyingly unreadable. She had the kind of face people trusted without meaning to. Calm eyes. Sharp attention. The kind of presence that didn't ask for space and somehow took it anyway. Amanda's jaw tightened. I'm aware of how pressure works. A flicker passed through the woman's eyes. Not offense. Something closer to dry amusement. I'm sure you are. She crossed to the wall cabinet, brought down the first aid kit, and returned without hurry. That was the irritating part. She moved fast, but never looked rushed. Amanda kept the paper towels pressed to her palm, watching her with narrowed eyes. The woman peeled the blood-soaked layers back, checked the cut, then glanced up once. You're good. It's not deep. I know. Of course you do. Amanda almost snapped at that. Almost. Instead, she stood there while a stranger disinfected her hand with efficient, certain movements. The sting made the muscles in her wrist jump. Instantly, the woman's fingers tightened around her hand. Not rough, not gentle either. Just enough. A quiet correction. Stay still. Amanda went still. That was worse. The woman wrapped the bandage neatly, as though she had done it 100 times before. Probably had. Her hands were confident without being showy. Capable without needing praise for it. Amanda hated that she noticed any of that. Hated even more that she noticed exactly how close they were standing. When the bandage was finished, the woman finally lifted her gaze fully to Amanda's face. For a second, neither of them moved. Up close, Amanda could see the warmth in her skin, the sharp intelligence in her eyes, the faint trace of humor that seemed to live somewhere near the corner of her mouth. Not flirtation. Not even softness. Just presence. Calm, grounded, impossible to rush. The woman let go of Amanda's hand. Done. Amanda's throat felt unexpectedly dry. Thank you. There it was. That brief suspended beat after something changes and before either person admits it. Then the woman took a step back. Amanda looked down at the bandage because looking anywhere else felt like a mistake. You should keep it clean for a day or two, the woman said, closing the first aid kit. Try not to stab yourself again before lunch. Amanda looked up sharply. The woman picked up her coffee. There it was again, that tiny, almost invisible curve at the edge of her mouth. You're welcome, she added and walked out. Amanda stood alone in the polished kitchen, one hand bandaged, lemon half cut on the board, heart beating far too hard for such a minor injury. Annoyance climbed her spine like heat. Not because the woman had helped. Because she had helped like that. Because Amanda should have thanked her, dismissed it, and moved on. Because instead, for one humiliating second, she had stood there and let a stranger take control of her body like it was the most natural thing in the world. And worst of all, she hadn't pulled away. By 8:15, Amanda had already decided the entire thing was ridiculous. By 8:30, she had replayed it 6 times. By 8:45, she was seated at the head of the long glass conference table, 3 executives deep into a risk review, and still aware of the faint pressure of fingers around her wrist as if the touch had been preserved under her skin. It made no sense. She was not rattled by women. She was not rattled by anyone. Amanda Mercer had built a reputation on composure, so absolute that people mistook it for ease. They mistook a sharpened survival instinct for elegance, a relentless refusal to bend for confidence. She let them. It was useful. Across from her, one of the vice presidents was making a point about exposure thresholds, but Amanda only caught half the sentence. The conference room doors opened. A few people turned. Amanda looked up and felt something inside her lock into place. The woman from the kitchen walked in beside Connor from legal, carrying a tablet and a plain black notebook. Same dark hair pulled back. Same composed face. Same steady, maddeningly self-possessed presence. Connor cleared his throat. Before we get into the next item, this is Sophia Bennett. She'll be consulting with us over the next several weeks. Sophia. The name landed harder than it should have. Connor kept talking. Outside risk specialist. She's here to evaluate structural blind spots, escalation processes, internal pressure points. Amanda didn't hear the rest. Sophia took a seat halfway down the table, not far enough to disappear, not close enough to make a statement. She didn't look at Amanda immediately, which was almost offensive. Then at last she did. Just once. A brief, level glance. No sign of the kitchen. No sign of surprise. No sign that 5 minutes of blood, breath, and bandaged skin had happened at all. Amanda disliked her on sight. That was the simplest explanation. She disliked Sophia's composure. Sophia's timing. Sophia's irritating ability to move through a room without trying to own it and still end up shifting the entire center of gravity. Amanda's voice, when she spoke next, came out cool and exact. Let's continue. The meeting did continue. Amanda led it with her usual precision. She asked pointed questions, cut off weak answers, redirected vague language, and forced clarity where others preferred fog. The room responded to her the way rooms always did, carefully, attentively, a little fearfully. Sophia did not. She listened. That was all. Listened with her head slightly tilted, pen moving only when she felt like writing something down. She didn't flinch when Amanda challenged someone. Didn't rush to agree. Didn't offer approval. Didn't try to impress. At one point Amanda asked her directly, "Do you see a problem with the current structure?" Sophia looked up. Yes. A pause. Everyone else at the table went still. Amanda folded her hands. Go on. Sophia did. Not aggressively. Not theatrically. Just clearly. She pointed out an operational blind spot in one division, a decision bottleneck in another, and an over-reliance on unwritten communication patterns between teams who should have had documented procedures months ago. No hedging. No nervous filler. No trying to make herself sound smaller than the point she was making. By the end of it, Amanda was irritated for a new reason. She was right. Amanda hated that almost as much. It should have ended there. A useful consultant. A sharp mind. An irritatingly calm face. Amanda had worked with more dangerous women than that, and forgotten them by quarter's end. Instead, by 11:15, she had already heard Sophia Bennett's name 3 more times. Once from Connor, who stopped outside Amanda's office with revised exposure notes and said, with professional reluctance, "She's good." Amanda signed the notes without looking up. That's an unhelpfully broad adjective. Connor shifted his weight. She sees patterns fast. Amanda handed the folder back. So does every competent adult in this building. Connor hesitated just long enough to become annoying. That's not what I meant. Amanda lifted her eyes then, cool and exact. Connor, smart enough to hear the dismissal underneath the silence, nodded once and left. At 11:28, Amanda stepped out to take a call and found two senior managers standing near the windows outside legal talking in low voices. I'm just saying she called it immediately, one of them was saying. The dependency issue? Yes. Amanda kept walking. Neither man saw her in time. By 11:33, she had reached the executive kitchen for coffee she didn't need and found Sophia at the far counter with one of the younger project leads, who was clearly 1 second away from a professional collapse. The woman had a laptop open, 2 marked-up printouts, and the slightly hunted expression of someone who had been sent into the wrong room with the wrong numbers and was only just realizing it. Sophia stood beside her with one hand braced lightly against the marble, reading whatever was on the screen. She didn't touch the laptop. Didn't take over. Didn't do that smug thing certain competent people did when handed someone else's mistake. She just said, "Okay." Breathe for a second. The younger woman actually obeyed. Amanda stopped in the doorway without meaning to. Sophia tapped one line on the printout. "This is recoverable." "It doesn't feel recoverable." "That's because you're looking at it like a disaster instead of a correction." The woman laughed nervously. "That sounds like consultant language." "It's not." Sophia straightened slightly. Consultant language would be something useless like "let's revisit the framework." The woman laughed for real this time. Amanda hated that she liked the line. Sophia took the pen from beside the laptop, circled 2 numbers, drew one quick arrow between them, and said, "There. Fix that, own it early, and don't make the mistake of trying to sound calmer than you are." People trust accuracy more than polish when they're already worried. The woman looked at her as if Sophia had just restored oxygen to the room. "Thank you." Sophia handed the pen back. "Don't thank me yet. Go fix it first." Amanda stepped fully into the kitchen then, and both women turned. The younger project lead straightened instantly. Sophia didn't. That alone should have been enough to irritate Amanda for the rest of the day. Instead, what bothered her more was the strange warmth she had just witnessed in Sophia up close. Not softness exactly, and certainly not fragility. Something else. A quiet steadiness that made people less chaotic simply by standing near it. The project lead gathered her papers and escaped. Amanda moved toward the coffee machine with deliberate calm. Sophia lifted her mug. "Still trying the coffee here?" Amanda didn't look at her. "I'm fond of disappointment in measured doses." That earned a small breath of laughter from Sophia. Amanda wished it hadn't. "You seem to be making yourself useful," she said. Sophia considered that. That was the assignment. Amanda glanced over then. Sophia met the look without strain. Dark hair pulled back cleanly, expression composed, almost thoughtful. No nervousness. No attempt to charm. No sign at all that standing alone in a room with Amanda Mercer should have been remotely disorienting. Amanda found that unnatural. She found it more unnatural that she wanted to keep the exchange going. Instead, she took her coffee and said, "Try not to reorganize the entire company before lunch." Sophia's mouth moved at one corner. "No promises." Amanda left before the answer could land any harder. Over the next few days, Sophia became impossible not to notice. Not because she demanded attention. The opposite, actually. She moved through the office as if she had no interest in becoming part of its ecosystem, which only made people gravitate toward her faster. Amanda saw it first in the executive kitchen, then in the hallway, then by the elevators. Someone from operations asked Sophia a question over coffee. Sophia answered in 2 sentences. The woman laughed. Not a polite laugh. A real one. Later, 2 people from compliance stopped her near reception, and within a minute all 3 of them were leaning in like they had known one another for months. At lunch, Amanda passed the corner lounge and caught Sophia listening to one of the junior analysts with the kind of focused patience most managers only pretended to have. It was infuriating. Not because Sophia was charming. She wasn't, not in any obvious way. She just seemed easy, attentive, thoughtful. quietly funny in a way that never reached for approval. The sort of person people started talking to before they fully meant to. Amanda hated how much that stood out in a building full of polished, strategic personalities. More than once she saw Sophia in the kitchen answering questions about where she'd worked before, how long she'd be staying, whether she'd survived the building's coffee yet. Sophia kept her answers brief. Sometimes she smiled. Once, when one of the finance directors asked if she always looked this calm under pressure, Sophia had replied, "Only on weekdays." The entire group laughed. Amanda, standing half-hidden just outside the doorway, felt a sharp wave of something hot and unreasonable rise in her chest. She stepped away before anyone noticed her there. By Thursday, Amanda had made the mistake of going downstairs for lunch. She usually avoided the executive dining room unless a meeting required it. It was too visible, too full of people trying to look relaxed in front of other important people. But her noon call had been moved. Legal had failed to send what she wanted on time, and she was in exactly the kind of mood that made the polished anonymity of a public room feel marginally preferable to another sandwich in her office. The restaurant level occupied the 12th floor and had been designed by someone who believed mood could be purchased by the square foot. Dark wood, smoked glass, low brass lighting, city views cut into elegant frames, waitstaff who moved like they'd been trained not to exist. Amanda arrived alone. That, too, changed the room. Not because anyone rushed her. People at this level knew better. But she could feel it. The adjustment, the subtle rebalancing of posture and conversation around her. A venture partner lowered his voice. Two directors at the far banquette stopped mid-sentence and pretended they hadn't. Someone from investor relations got to his feet half an inch, realized she was not headed his way, and sat back down with visible relief. Amanda was halfway to her usual corner table when she saw Sophia. Not seated. Standing by the windows with a tray and two women from mid-level operations who looked far more at ease than people normally did around consultants, board members, or anyone adjacent to Amanda's world. Sophia had traded her blazer for a dark blouse with the sleeves rolled once, hair still pulled back, one hand wrapped around a glass of water while the other moved only occasionally as she talked. Not a performance. Not a social climb. Nothing in her body said, "Look at me." And yet, infuriatingly, people did. Amanda took her seat at the far side of the room with a direct line of sight she immediately told herself she did not want. From there, she had the displeasure of watching Sophia dismantle the room's natural hierarchy without seeming to notice she was doing it. One of the women from operations said something that made Sophia tilt her head and answer with a line Amanda couldn't hear. Both women left. A server came by with the wrong salad, and Sophia, without any visible effort, made him relax within 10 seconds of apologizing. Later, a man from development stopped at their table, clearly intending to speak to one of the operations leads, and ended up lingering, because Sophia said something dry enough to catch him off guard. It was absurd. Amanda looked down at her menu and discovered she had read the same line 3 times without processing it. When her lunch arrived, she barely touched it. At some point, Sophia glanced across the room and found her. Not for long. Just one direct look, clear and level, and entirely too aware. Then she turned back to her table as if Amanda weren't sitting there in silk and irritation and impossible visibility. That was what did it. Not the warmth. Not the laughter. The fact that Sophia did not reach toward Amanda's gravity the way everyone else eventually did. She moved through the building as if Amanda's presence were a fact, not an axis. Amanda had no language for why that bothered her as much as it did, or why it made her want to interrupt. Her phone lit up just then with a text from her assistant reminding her of a 1:30 review. Amanda set down her napkin, rose, and crossed half the room before realizing, with instant annoyance, that her path would take her straight past Sophia's table. She considered changing course. Didn't. As she drew near, one of the operations women looked up and nearly inhaled her own spine. "Miss Mercer." Amanda gave a brief nod. Sophia, seated now and finishing her water, looked up more slowly. Her expression didn't change. Amanda said, "I trust lunch has not completely destroyed productivity." One of the women smiled too quickly. Sophia answered first. "We're all hanging on by a thread." Amanda's eyes narrowed the slightest bit. "That sounds below standard." Sophia set down her glass. "Then it's a good thing I'm not the one setting the standard." The line was mild. The look beneath it wasn't. Amanda let the silence stretch one beat longer than necessary, then said, "Enjoy the rest of your lunch." She walked away before anyone could answer. Behind her, she heard one of the women exhale. Then, low and dry enough that Amanda knew exactly who had said it. "I'm starting to understand the coffee." That got a soft burst of laughter from the table. Amanda did not turn around. She did, however, think about that line in the elevator all the way back upstairs. And if you're still here with me, take a second to like and subscribe. Stories like this only reach more people when YouTube sees real engagement. And tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what moment has gotten under your skin the most so far. That evening at 6:30, she found Sophia alone by the espresso machine. Of course, the kitchen lights were softer at that hour, the skyline beyond the windows fading into blue and gold. Amanda crossed the room for water she didn't particularly want. Sophia glanced over. "Hand okay?" Amanda unscrewed the cap from the bottle. "It's fine." "Good." Silence settled. Amanda should have left. Instead she said, "You seem to be settling in quickly." Sophia took a sip of coffee. "Is that a problem?" Amanda turned to face her fully. "That depends on." Amanda's eyes narrowed. "Whether you're here to observe or to socialize." Sophia watched her for a beat too long. Then, mildly, "You always this dramatic before coffee?" Amanda stared at her. Sophia's expression remained perfectly calm. That dry flicker of humor was back. Amanda set the water bottle down harder than necessary. "I'm not dramatic." "No." Sophia lifted a brow. "Could have fooled me." Amanda actually laughed once. It came out with no warmth in it at all. "Be careful, Sophia." There was a tiny pause after her name. Sophia noticed it. "Obviously. You say my name like it personally offended you." Amanda's fingers tightened around the edge of the counter. Something about Sophia's voice, low, steady, unhurried, made every exchange feel more intimate than it should have. "That would require you to matter personally," Amanda said. Sophia nodded as if considering that. Amanda hated that sound. Hated how calm it was. Hated how much it made her want to provoke a bigger reaction, and how impossible that seemed to be. When Sophia turned back to the machine, Amanda realized, with immediate disgust, that she was looking at her hands again. Long fingers. Clean movements. No wasted motion. The same hands that had wrapped her palm and held her wrist and left her lying awake half the night for reasons she refused to name. Amanda straightened. "Good night." Sophia glanced back over her shoulder. "You can stop glaring," she said. "I'm not going anywhere." Amanda left without answering. She slept badly. That became the pattern. Not every night. Just enough to irritate her. She'd lie in the perfect dark of her bedroom, the city muted beyond the glass, sheets cool against her legs, one arm thrown over her waist, and suddenly remember the exact tone of Sophia's voice saying, "Hold this." Or the pressure of her fingers. Or the maddeningly calm look in her eyes after Amanda had snapped at her. Or the absurd way half the office already seemed comfortable around her. Amanda did not like thinking about what made Sophia different. She liked it even less that her body seemed to have its own opinion. She hated how her body responds every time Sophia looks at her. She hates that confident, bossy touch, and she hates that she wanted it so badly. Her whole body still aches with the memory of it, and it's all she can think about. The first time that thought hit her cleanly, fully, undeniably, Amanda sat straight up in bed and turned on the lamp as if light itself might kill it. It didn't. The thought remained. Worse, so did the truth inside it. She was not a woman who wanted to be handled. She was not a woman who waited. She was not a woman who followed. In business, she led. In relationships, she chose. In bed, she set the pace, the terms, the ending. That was how her life worked. That was how it had always worked. And now one dark-haired consultant with steady hands and a low voice had turned her inside out over a minor kitchen injury and a few dry remarks by the espresso machine. It was absurd. It was offensive. It was becoming a problem. On Friday, just before noon, Amanda stepped into the elevator with 2 board members and a director from strategy. The conversation was midstream, bland, and procedural, exactly the way she liked casual office interactions to be. The elevator stopped on 26. The doors opened. Sophia stepped in. Naturally. One of the board members, Patricia, who liked everyone too quickly, brightened. Sophia. Settling in. Sophia shifted slightly to make room as the doors slid shut again. Surviving. Patricia laughed. That good, huh? Your coffee situation is bleak, Sophia said. Even the strategy director smiled. Amanda kept her eyes on the floor indicator. Patricia asked where Sophia had learned to stay so unflappable in high-pressure environments. Sophia shrugged lightly. First aid club in school. Turns out being useful under pressure sticks. A ridiculous answer. Casual. Offhand. Amanda hated how much she liked it. Patricia laughed again. You make it sound effortless. It isn't effortless, Sophia said. Just quieter. Amanda looked at her before she could stop herself. Sophia, perhaps sensing it, turned her head. Their eyes met. Just 1 second. Then the elevator doors opened again, and the moment vanished into movement and polite goodbyes. Amanda stepped out first. Her pulse did not settle for the next 20 minutes. That night the office finally emptied around 8. Amanda was still in her office, jacket back on, glasses in hand, reading the same paragraph of a memo for the 4th time when her assistant knocked softly and poked her head in. Do you need anything else before I head out? No. Her assistant hesitated. Sophia Bennett asked if the revised files should go directly to you or legal. Amanda looked up too fast. Why would she ask me? Blank. Because you're the CEO? Amanda exhaled. Legal. Got it. The door closed. Amanda stared at the memo. Then at nothing. Then, after exactly 12 seconds of behaving irrationally, she got up and left her office. The executive kitchen was nearly dark, lit only by the under-cabinet glow and the city lights beyond the glass. Sophia was there. Of course she was. Leaning one hip against the counter, reading something on her tablet, mug in her free hand. She looked up as Amanda entered. For one strange, suspended second, neither of them spoke. Then Sophia glanced at Amanda's bandaged hand. How's the patient? Amanda stopped near the opposite counter. I wasn't aware we'd developed a theme. Sophia's mouth moved, barely. Almost a smile. We haven't. Amanda should have turned around and walked out. That would have been the same choice. Instead she said, You seem very comfortable here. Sophia set the mug down. Should I be less so? That depends. There's that word again. Amanda crossed her arms. You answer a lot of questions for someone who's been here 5 minutes. So do you. That's different. How? I built this place. Sophia tilted her head, studying her now in that quiet, infuriating way. And you think that means everyone in it has to move at your speed? Amanda's eyes flashed. I think people should understand where they are. Sophia was still for a moment. Then, softly, You don't like not being the one in charge, do you? The air changed. Amanda felt it immediately. A live wire pulled tight between them. Her answer came too cold, too fast. Excuse me. Sophia didn't move. That wasn't an insult. No, Amanda said, voice sharpened to glass. Just an observation from someone who's been here long enough to figure out where the coffee filters are. That should have done it. Should have made Sophia step back, apologize, retreat into professionalism like anyone else would. Sophia did none of those things. Instead, she looked Amanda over once, from her immaculate posture to the hand still resting a little too rigidly against her arm, and said, For someone so composed, you're surprisingly easy to rile up. Amanda actually felt her pulse jump, which made her angrier. Careful. That's twice you've said that. Amanda stepped closer without meaning to. Sophia noticed. Of course she noticed. That look again, she said quietly. Amanda went still. What look? The one that says you're trying very hard to decide whether you want me gone or closer. Amanda stared at her. The room suddenly felt far too small. That's a dangerous level of confidence for a consultant. Sophia's eyes held hers without strain. You really don't know what to do with me. Amanda should have replied. She had 100 possible replies. Sharp ones. Elegant ones. Cruel ones, if she wanted them. None of them arrived. Because the horrible thing was, Sophia was right. Amanda did not know what to do with her. With the way she stood there without flinching. with the way her voice dropped into something almost intimate whenever the room narrowed to just the two of them. With the way Amanda's own body seemed to betray her faster every time. Sophia picked up her mug again. No grand ending. No victory. Good night, Amanda. That was the final insult. Not the words. The calm. Amanda stood in the executive kitchen long after Sophia left, staring at her own reflection in the black glass. She looked immaculate. She looked furious. She looked, to her everlasting disgust, shaken. At home, she poured a drink she didn't want and left it untouched on the counter. She loosened the buttons at her wrists, took out her earrings, walked barefoot through a pristine apartment filled with exactly the right furniture and exactly the right art and not one thing out of place. Everything in her life was where it belonged. So why did it feel like something had shifted anyway? Amanda stood at the window in the dark. The city spread below her in cold, glittering lines. Her bandaged hand rested lightly against the glass. She could still feel Sophia's fingers there. That was impossible. And yet, Amanda closed her eyes. The memory arrived instantly, unwanted, vivid. The pressure of a hand around her wrist. The low command. The lack of hesitation. The terrible, humiliating fact that some part of her had recognized that control and gone still for it. Wanted it. Leaned into it before she had the chance to stop herself. Amanda opened her eyes hard, jaw tight. No. The words sounded small in the empty room. She hated the woman for seeing through her too easily. Hated the office for warming to her. Hated her own body for responding every time Sophia looked at her like she could already read the answer Amanda had not admitted out loud. Most of all, she hated that deep under all of it. Under the irritation, the pride, the sleeplessness, something was awakening that felt nothing like weakness and far too much like need. Amanda Mercer had never needed anyone a day in her life. That was what she told herself. That was what she would keep telling herself. Even as she stood awake long after midnight, hand curled at her side, thinking about a calm voice in an empty kitchen saying done like it meant far more than a bandage. Across town, in a furnished apartment that was comfortable without trying too hard, Sophia stood barefoot in her kitchen with her hair finally down and one hand wrapped around a mug of tea she had forgotten to drink. The apartment didn't look anything like Amanda's world. Books stacked sideways on a chair because she hadn't unpacked properly. A scarf thrown over the back of the couch. 2 framed photos still leaning against the wall instead of hung. A grocery receipt tucked under a bowl because she had used it as a bookmark and then lost the book. Real life, in other words. Sophia leaned against the counter and let the quiet settle.